We need to create a world that is equitable, that is stable.
Our world at this time is still suffering from wars, abject poverties.
What kind of world do we choose to build together?
The leaders of the time came up with a blueprint that has shaped the world today. And this is where it all takes place.
The peacekeeping operation is a glorious cause.
We need global leadership.
这帮姑娘说了，是我引他们读书一条路，把他们引出了大山。
A revolution has begun. There's no going back.
The 20th century will always be remembered for its violence.
Cheerful to the delegates of 1930.
In just 30 years, 2 catastrophic world wars had ravaged civilization. In 1943, as the Second World War raged, the Allied powers met to end the cycle of conflict. It would have to be an agreement that represents more than a few powerful nations, a true World League for Peace.
We need to create a world that is equitable, that is stable.
Our world at this time is still suffering from wars, abject poverties.
80 years on, we confront again the question our founders faced, only more urgent, more intertwined, more unforgiving. What kind of world do we choose to build together?
Trading war for peace and development is a noble goal. But historically, that hadn't always worked out. There were important debates in history that contributed to the idea of forming the United Nations.
Thomas G. Weiss is a scholar of international relations and global governance. He's also an expert on the concept of a United Nations.
Roosevelt had an idea. He came charging in to the bath of Mr. Churchill. Mr. Churchill, as it was his wont, was drinking sherry, smoking a cigar, and was stark naked. And Roosevelt said, oh, I'm sorry, or something like that. And Churchill said, well, I've got nothing to hide from the United States, Mr. President. And when Roosevelt came in, he said, we need to call this the United Nations.
It is here, in this tranquil, green and oak-lined estate, the leaders of the time came up with a blueprint that has shaped the world today, the United Nations.
After weeks of debate, they agreed on proposals for an international organization to maintain peace after the war.
And it is now my duty, my honor and my privilege in the chair,
1945 in San Francisco, a gathering of 850 delegates representing 51 countries, some only recently liberated, signed a charter that would bring the new organization to life. For China, a country that had suffered horribly by war and invasion, it was a significant moment.
当时这个成立联合国呢，中国当然是比较积极的，因为一个很重要的原因呢，是第二次世界大战期间，那么中国已经成为4大国之一，而且在第二次世界大战期间，中国抗日战争是一个东方的主战场中国这个做出的贡献也非常大所以这对中国来说呢，也应该以这个更加积极的姿态投入这个战后世界的建设。
The United Nations General Assembly practices multilateralism by serving as a central stage for all its 193 member states to discuss global issues, negotiate international agreements, and make decisions based on equal votes. And this is where it all takes place.
The United Nations was conceived as a way to end wars. In 80 years, from the original 51, it has grown to include 193 countries, all of which are still represented by the original charter to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war. The new United Nations would have 6 principal organizations. The UN Security Council is responsible for the UN's principal mission, maintaining peace and security. It would have 15 voting members. 5 of those, the key allied countries of World War II, would be permanent. Crucially, to make sure that no one of the 5 could easily dominate important decisions, each would have the power to veto. It was a controversial decision that would soon test the UN.
This was a people's conference.
As China had sacrificed so much, it was the first nation to sign the UN Charter in San Francisco. As the lone representative of the Communist Party of China, Dong Bi-wu added his name to the document.
当时世界各国这个代表团其实都是包括各个不同党派而且战争期间很多国家都有统一战线这一类的组织。中国共产党呢，当时正在争取成立这个联合政府所以中国共产党希望参加制宪会议的这个中国代表团，那应该包括中国各主要的党派。
The People's Republic of China was born to great fanfare. The new government in China had the overwhelming support of its people. It naturally expected to take over at the UN.
Guinea? Yes. Yes. Tanzania? Yes. United States? No.
But the United States, a longtime sponsor of the defeated nationalists in the Civil War, refused to allow China's new communist government to inherit the seat at the UN. It seemed the big powers could still do as they pleased.
Will have the effect of welcoming the People's Republic of China to this assembly and the Security Council, while at the same time not affecting the representation of the Republic of China in this hall.
Communist China's Zhou Enlai proposes.
But this was a different world. By the 1950s and 1960s, many newly independent countries and others concerned by the power of big nations at the UN had formed a movement that chose not to take sides in the Cold War. This non-aligned movement saw in the People's Republic of China, a country that had fairly won its independence. It deserved to be recognized as China's legitimate holder of its seat at the UN. With non-alignment as the cornerstone of its new foreign policy, Algeria reached out to China as a new friend. Ambassador Noureddin Jaoudi was tasked by then-President Houari Boumediene to reach out to other developing nations and raise support for the PRC's rightful claim to its seat.
Bon, le plus grand obstacle, bien sûr, c'était l'opposition systématique des États-Unis. Alors, Boumediene a été un visionnaire. Il a dit, il faut essayer de voir comment casser cette solidarité occidentale contre la Chine. Donc, la vision de l'Algérie, celle de Boumediene, c'était de pousser l'Angleterre et la France à voir beaucoup plus leurs intérêts commerciaux, géopolitiques, et à ce moment-là, d'opter pour la Chine. Et en même temps, nous avons convaincu nos amis. Et c'est comme ça que finalement, et l'Union soviétique, et l'Algérie, et l'Albanie, et tout le monde a soutenu le principe du rétablissement de la Chine, et l'Amérique s'est retrouvée isolée.
With overwhelming support, the UN General Assembly on October 25, 1971, placed the China question on the agenda. Since its founding in 1949, the People's Republic of China had not been allowed to take its seat at the UN. By the end of voting that day, China's seat was finally restored. By Resolution 2758, the People's Republic of China is the only legitimate representative of China at the United Nations. It was a moment of joy for the Chinese delegation and vindication for all that believed in a United Nations for all.
The United Nations was born on the ashes of a major world war with the hope that the tragedy will never be repeated. Whether it is resolving conflicts or building for development, one of the most important key logics of the United Nations is shared responsibility.
Senior Colonel Shi Zhongyong is a peacekeeping instructor with rich experience. He's served on 3 UN missions in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Mali, and Liberia during an Ebola crisis. These deployments have made him a better instructor in the peacekeeping trainings.
Prepared for deployment to the mission. For me, after serving in the UN peacekeeping mission 3 times, I know the peacekeeping operation is a glorious cause, but peacekeepers may face a lot of challenge.
To some, educating a warrior class in the tactics of peace is a paradox of sorts. But at the International Studies College of the National University of Defense and Technology in Jiangsu Province, the lessons are just as much about life and death. These officers hail from many countries. One day, each will be deployed to a crisis zone where they'll face the ultimate contradiction: to serve as a soldier for peace, not war. A UN blue helmet.
In testimony number 6, I think...
Peacekeepers all over the world gathered here for this training course. Today's topic, human rights. I hope to join them later in the discussion.
It should be the right to life and safety, first of all.
I also feel it's important to have the rights for development, for prosperity, and certainly for peace.
Like all military academies, the instructors here are veterans. Shi Zhongyong himself has faced danger. But nothing truly prepared him for the task of guarding communities in war-torn Liberia during an Ebola outbreak. Shi's war diary speaks of raw courage, but also of compassion.
Our government didn't decide to withdraw. We choose to stay together with the local people. And this kind of extension of mission gave local people hope, confidence in fighting against Ebola virus.
There were two axes. One has gone to that side, we know.
In his 35 years serving with the Bangladesh Armed Forces, Colonel Mustafizur Rahman has commanded mechanized infantry in operations from Bosnia to Congo. Now he ensures that peacekeepers understand the risks they take are very real. And that makes the moments of peace all the more precious. On the streets of Kunshan, an ancient Chinese city that knew war long ago, Colonel Rahman, the old soldier, enjoys the fruits of a stable world. He knows that peacekeepers are often the only hope for common people in troubled places.
Peacekeeping is main purpose is serving the humanity. When we are deployed, it is a conflict area. You don't find in that area there is no basic needs of the local population, number one. Number two, their life is threatened. And it is a responsibility is given to the peacekeepers to provide them the protection of their life. In some cases also we provide essential support. This is the scope where we, the peacekeepers, anyone under the blue helmet has the ability or the scope to contribute for the humanity of the local population.
Most peacekeeping operations are made up of soldiers from different worlds. Swiss, Brazilian, Bangladeshi, and Chinese lecturers present diverse perspectives. And though they seldom share similar cultures, peacekeepers must pull together in the field.
Hopefully in the future, soon in the peacekeeping mission.
77 years after its founding in the wake of a world war, UN peacekeeping has deployed more than 2 million personnel from more than 120 countries across 71 operations, helping countries navigate the difficult path from war to peace. Currently, more than 76,000 peacekeepers are deployed in 11 global operations. Preserving peace will always be a shared responsibility we dare not ignore.
War is always the worst enemy of children, and I think we just have to all join hands, and that's why this cooperation is important. Everyone needs to come together and think about what kind of world do we want. We want a world where children can survive and thrive, and that's what we're trying to do.
What is important is we keep the know-how, we keep the training, and that is something we cannot do without the support of our member states, and particularly without the support of countries like China, which has an immense potential for training, capacity building, high level of skill sets.
Peacekeepers give troubled places a chance to rebuild, often after decades of conflict. Without them, many lives and whole communities would be lost. It is this global sense of unity that turns soldiers and strangers into protectors and friends. Because if war has taught us anything, it is that lasting peace depends not on force, but on our collective commitment to understanding and shared responsibility. The United Nations Development Programme tells us that 1 out of every 8 people on our planet lives in extreme poverty.
SDGs aren't just a list of goals. They carry the hopes, dreams, rights, and expectations of people everywhere.
To address global challenges such as poverty and climate change, the United Nations has established the 17 Sustainable Development Goals since the year 2015. These goals call for the eradication of poverty, the protection of our planet, and the improvement of lives and futures for everyone around the world.
One person that can fully grasp the importance of those goals is Mr. Wang Zhejia. From 1978 to 1983, he represented China at the UN Environmental Programme. There, he negotiated regulations for the trade in pesticides and hazardous chemicals. Wang believes his work at the UNEP grew out of a process that started just a few years before he got there.
As mentioned to the 1972 Stockholm Conference, it is the starting point for the global environment and development process. The background is due to the industry development in the Western Europe, America, and also including Japan, there is a serious negative impact on human health and also on the environment since the 1930s until 1960s. Until 1968, the environment issue was put on the agenda of UN General Assembly. In 1969, 1 year later, UN adopted resolution on holding a United Nations Conference on Human Environment in Stockholm, Sweden, in 1972.
In the 1970s, as the world scrambled for economic development, it was largely ignoring very real environmental costs. The Stockholm Conference was where it all changed.
The Chinese delegation played a quite important role in that conference. In the delegation, there are 4 representatives. One of them is Professor Qu Geping.
Stockholm was China's first major environmental conference as a permanent member, and it sent its largest delegation. One key member, Qu Geping, remembers that China was just waking up to its own environmental problems. Later, he would go on to be involved in the nation's first State Environmental Protection Administration, where good ecological choices would become national environmental policy. Wang Zhejia has always believed that Qu was a pioneer on the hard road to China's environmental awakening.
真的，都是环保工作，做环保工作的人，大家都知道，这个工作是不好做，也挺虚的。 挺艰辛啊，都是水呀，引起的问题比较多。农业用它浇的水，农作物都死了。我们喝水呀都没地方喝，所以这样才修水库，解决水。所以说，我们现在水就是把这个水库的水，不是这个。 绵水库这个地方看起来是像个海，当时是为了解决北京的喝水，修了绵水，城市要清洁化，水库旁边不能够修工程，所以搞这个环境保护呢，是一个非常伟大的一件事。
That dramatic transformation in China is encouraging, not only for one country, but as an example for the international community to draw inspirations from. The UN Development Programme works to eradicate poverty and reduce inequality through sustainable and inclusive development in more than 170 countries and territories.
It's a very nice thing, right? So we have to develop new means of financing development. So at this time, we know that there are $450 trillion worth of assets and wealth right, in the world. The SDG financing gap every year is about $4 trillion. So the money is there. So the challenge is how do you align this, wealth and investment to the needs in developing countries, so that we can, make progress faster and achieve, the kind of aspiration that people have for a better life.
We also need to remind us, if we shift the focus from the North and South cooperation to the South-South cooperation exclusively, then what would happen? Do we intend to leave the other major part alone? Then what's the meaning? What's the significance? What's the impact for the multilateral framework? We definitely believe our partners from the global North are very much committed to continue to engage in this global efforts to attain the sustainable development.
Sustainable development goals are not only a rallying force for countries, but also for citizens and communities as small as this one.
Claremont is acting on its concerns about climate change. The city in California works closely with local companies to install solar panels for residents, and it helps weatherize their homes to cut energy waste in half.
I come here with the hope to find out how those grand United Nations Sustainable Development Goals are being translated into real life by the folks here. Laura.
Hi, Wei.
Hi.
Come on in.
Oh, good to see you finally. Thank you so much. You have a system now already established, yeah?
So this house is all electric. We shut off the gas. And so every appliance here in this house is run by electricity.
Okay.
And
it works here?
That's an infection stove.
Right.
Laura Jo Fu moved to Claremont 3 years ago. She was drawn by the community's dedication to sustainable living. Today, by connecting her heating, ventilation, and AC through an HVAC system, she's reduced her energy footprint.
So this is our HVAC system, basically.
I see.
And replaces a gas, HVAC system.
Okay. So that's her baby in a way.
Yeah.
Everything comes from there.
Everything comes from there. Very fuel efficient, very efficient.
But Claremont is connected in another important way. The Institute of Postmodern Development of China is also based here. It places classical Chinese thinking into today's big issues. Karen is its director.
Your community here is very unique in the way that you are showing your utmost support for issues related to ecological civilization, including topics like climate change.
Is a retirement community, but a very special one, whose commitment is to social justice, peace, care for the earth, and care for each other. And so those people who seek to be in a place that is motivated by those visions comes here. So it's an amazing collection. We call ourselves an intentional community, which means that on a deep level, we are there for each other. When I look back, I'm proud. When I look forward, I'm daunted. And especially in the last few years. There's a strong movement. We're working on educating each other. We had a big week-long discussion on food here at Pilgrim Place. How to be more plant-based, for example, for the sake of the earth. I don't think we're experiencing a backlash. So people who were indifferent are now opposed. And so now a whole nother level of discussion, a level of struggle has to take place because we all have to be on board for this change. We need global leadership.
I believe that we need to build a multipolar world. We need to build a world in which all areas of the world, all cultures, all religions, all civilizations are able to work together.
Sustainable development is not just about clean energy and eco-cities. It has an important human side as well. Written in the core principle of UN charters is the commitment to the equality of men and women. In year 2015, the United Nations set up a 15-year agenda for the commitment of gender equality of all women. Now, only a few years to go. Are we getting any closer to that goal?
Today, a majority of nations agree that gender equality is vital to development. None of us succeed when half of us are held back. But despite some progress, there are still places where a woman is not guaranteed an education. Gender equality is more than a goal in itself. The dream has to be translated into reality. In 1995, the 4th UN Conference on Women was held in Beijing. It drew tens of thousands of people, including 6,000 government delegates. The conference resolved that women's rights were also human rights.
没有反对意见，通过。
For the UN, women's rights had to be a legal discussion, not just a philosophical one.
I think that was one of the greatest moments in my life. I don't think I'll experience another great event like the Beijing conference. First of all, that is a conference that brought together the biggest number of people ever gathered together. That was a great moment of discussion. The women became an agenda for the world. It was a world agenda, an agenda for both men and women. At the end of this conference, I just said, a revolution has begun. There's no going back.
Gertrude Mongella was Secretary General of that pivotal conference in Beijing. Now, on her 80th birthday, she's still traveling the world, gauging how well those resolutions have held up. Mongella grew up in East Africa. Her country, Tanzania, only gained its independence in 1964. Since then, the United Nations has had an important impact on its development. Her work on gender equality frequently brings her back to China.
Looking at it, women have participated in the economic development of China. I can just give an example. In my own country, Tanzania, we now have a woman president. Ooh. So I think that is great. In primary school now, it depends just on the population. If you have more boys, you have more boys in schools. If you have more girls, you have more girls at school. So it's no longer an issue. We are moving on the right track.
红日升在东方，西大道满霞光。我何其心生于你怀，诚意满。
Education is the movement from darkness to light. That's why I traveled about 3,000 kilometers to be here in the senior high school for girls in the mountainous area of southwest China's Yunnan province to learn how education is changing the lives of women spanning 3 very different generations here, and how these women are in turn changing the face of education and their own community.
The word stretch out before her, 对吧 ？Stretch out 表示展开、展现的意思啊。世界呢就 展现在她的什么面前 ，and she was ready to embrace every moment of her grand adventure.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Would you like to share your dream or your career?
Volunteer, just raise your hand. 来，这位同学要举手了。
是吗？
你举手吗？你有举手吗
Okay, you first.
好 ，OK。
My dream is want to be a teacher because I think want to be a teacher is very meaningful.
Why?
Because I can help students learning their knowledges.
Chris, aren't you proud of your student?
Yeah, I'm so proud of you.
What's your name?
毛小兰。
小兰。
The school's founder is Jiang Mei. She's dedicated 45 years to helping local girls get access to higher education. Though it's been difficult at times, she's always believed it was worth it.
我记得有一次在北京，就谈到这个教育问题，是谈到钱的问题嘛。对呀。那时候学校还没成立啊。我记得一个记者就问我，他说：“张老师，你想一想啊，那个高中要花多少钱？”我说不知道。一个学生花多少钱？我说不知道。他说：“天啊，那你怎么办？”我说办一天嘛，就知道一天嘛。一天一天的过呗。对。总会能有办法解决的嘛。是的。你想那么多，不敢干了。不敢干了。是的。
红颜上红梅开，千里冰霜脚下踩。
The opportunity this school provides is changing how these young women see themselves. It has also changed Jiang Mei, who has had the courage to see it through. In that way, their hopes and dreams will always be connected.
新春来。
他觉得女孩子一定要读书，妈妈就是没有读过书，因为家里面就是负担不起他们的学费，她小学2年级就辍学了，然后就跟着外婆一起在外面打工之类的。我觉得妈妈变得那么坚韧，肯定是跟我外婆有一定的关系的，因为我觉得外婆就像女超人一样。那个时候就是他们村里面是没有路的，但是我外婆就很有先进性的，就是觉得一定要开条路，然后就组织我的外公他们一起去挖了一条路，让所有人一起走。我妈妈总是跟我说，就是靠山山会倒，靠人人会跑，一定要靠自己。
我连毕业计划都想好了。你说我们学地理学了铁路，要从这里坐沪昆铁路到上海
高铁。
然后坐京沪线吧，对，坐到北京，然后从北京坐到哈尔滨，然后出国。心有多大，舞台就有多大，脚步就得跟上。哎呦！
Huaping students are expected to study hard and reach for their dreams. Their teacher, Zhou Yunli, was also a student here 17 years ago. She was one of the first to benefit from the program. After university, she came back to teach. Now, Yunli shares her story with the next generation of young women preparing to take on the world.
只能是鼓励他们，就是说尽量先上一个平台，你多读一点书是好的。因为像我们小地方，你不读书，真的，我就有时候也跟他们讲，即使说你考到大学，你出去见识到的东西不一样，让你肯定有不一样的见解，你可能就不会那么局限。
这一步还要走，
对你必须要走。 08年我们来的时候就只有1栋教学楼，我们班主任有跟我们讲是建的是女子高中，免费的，全部收女孩子，如果家庭条件不好就来这儿读。我就赶紧跑回家就跟我爸说，我说不愁了不愁，只要考得起嘛，我跟我姐都去女子高中读，正常考大学，又免费啊，抓住救命稻草了。我就最记得我大学毕业回来要回到这学校教书，我推开门的那一刻，哇，就是那种熟悉，那种亲切感，就是扑面而来，就自己感觉就非常的亲切，就是我又回到家里面一样的那种很亲切。
逼近的思想，那按那个逼近的思想来讲，你本来应该是求的是割线的斜率，就是2点连线的斜率，是吧？是。表现在图形上，那就是割线斜率对线斜率，是吧？那理解上来说，就是平均变化率对平均变化率，是吧？
这帮姑娘，我老师我就说了，是我给他们读书，我引他们读书一条路，是不是把他们引出了大山？但是他给了我活下去的勇气和这个机会，他们延续了我的生命。有的时候，老是想看这一届，看完这一届想想活着，我再看他们下一届，看看他们这几个人怎么样，再活着，看看他毕业了又干什么。是，就这样，就活着就把生命活下来。
快，快抓！
The world has changed a lot since the United Nations was born 80 years ago. Many of us have better healthcare, more fulfilling jobs, and access to education. Today, girls in the mountains of southwestern China are blessed with greater choices than their parents could ever imagine. But there are still places in our world where war, poverty, and inequality stifles valuable human potential.
历史告诉我们，越是困难时刻，越要秉持和平共处的初心，坚定合作共赢的信心，支持在历史前进的逻辑中前进，在时代发展的潮流中发展。为此，我愿提出全球治理倡议。
And the idea was that the planet and all of us would be a whole lot better off with a set of rules and regulations that everyone bought into.
Multilateral space has to be preserved and grown back to strengths.
Outside the United Nations building in Geneva, a broken chair symbolizes the work still left undone. It reminds us of the violence that gave birth to this institution and the strength and fragility upon which it stands today.
193 flags represent almost every state on Earth. Each flag is a vote for a better world. They remind us of the ideals of the United Nations founded on the principle that all human beings are equal, shine even brighter than they did in the dark days of the global conflict when the UN was born.
In the 80 years since its birth, the United Nations has stood as a proud embodiment of humanity's will. Because if a United Nations does not chart a course for the world's people, who will?